Yeah, well, that's the thing about offence, isn't it? When people say they're offended, it's that just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right, you know? It's...
You are not gay. I said, well, Renee, I'm not a nigger either.
In the world of Hollywood, where the spotlight shines brighter than anything else, some of the biggest stars are taking a stand. Time and time again, reporters with their sharp questions and woke agendas have tried to rattle them, but these actors are no strangers to the pressure. Instead of backing down or playing it safe, they've responded with powerful, savage clapbacks that show just how much they're willing to fight for their beliefs. These moments are raw, unfiltered, and full of the kind of honesty that you rarely see in Hollywood. When the cameras are rolling and the microphones are up, these stars have proven that they won't let anyone dictate their narrative. We will start with Ricky Gervais.
He's no one. With comedy as well, I think you've got to deal with taboos and contentious issues, and sometimes you deal in irony, and some people don't get that, but, you know, you can't legislate against stupidity, otherwise you'll be doing nothing, you know, because I'm not doing it for the 200 egos in the room. I'm doing it for the 200 million people watching around who aren't winning awards, who aren't millionaires.
Freedom of speech plays a crucial role in comedy, and Gervais firmly believes that comedians should not shy away from taboo topics or contentious issues. He argues that comedy should challenge societal norms and explore uncomfortable subjects because humor is a way to address the darker or more complex parts of life. However, this approach is not without its challenges. Gervais explains that irony, often used in comedy, can be misunderstood. Some people may take an ironic statement literally, leading to unnecessary outrage or criticism.
And freedom of speech is so important these days. I've reached the age now where I don't care anymore. It's a sin. Not to joke about all the bad things, that's a waste, because that's exactly what we should joke about.
Despite these challenges, Gervais stresses the importance of tackling difficult topics through humor. He views it as a moral duty to joke about bad things, arguing that ignoring them is a missed opportunity for reflection and discussion. For him, comedy is not about catering to the egos of a select audience, but about connecting with a broader public, often by shedding light on universal truths or societal hypocrisies. Humor, he suggests, is a powerful tool to confront and question the world around us, even if it makes some people uncomfortable along the way.
The worst thing is, the in charge do what they want. And you know what, I can, you know, I see all these people saying all the parties they were having and what all the stuff they were doing, and people saying, you know, that was the day I couldn't see my mum in hospital, or I couldn't go to my dad's funeral.
Ricky Gervais doesn't hold back when it comes to calling out the hypocrisy of politicians, particularly during crises like the COVID-19 pandemic. He highlights the glaring double standards of those in power, pointing out how they acted irresponsibly while imposing strict rules on everyone else.
And because the people in charge, the posh, privileged people in charge, were acting like Charlie Sheen. I mean, really rubbing salt in the wound. And as I say, I don't get political, but they're all
For example, Gervais mentions how many politicians were caught attending parties and gatherings during lockdowns, a time when ordinary people were making heartbreaking sacrifices such as missing their loved ones' funerals or being unable to visit them in hospitals. These actions, Gervais suggests, were a blatant slap in the face to the public, showcasing a lack of empathy and a sense of entitlement among the privileged. By comparing their behavior to that of Charlie Sheen, he humorously underscores how out of touch these leaders are with the struggles of everyday citizens. Now let's see what Dave Chappelle think about woke.
Anything the T's say gets on everybody's nerves. And then the T's don't even say anything bad. They should be in the back talking to himself.
Dave Chappelle, a name that has never been shy of controversy, is once again shaking things up. In his latest stand-up special, he takes direct aim at woke's culture, unapologetically tearing into what he sees as the dangerous rise of political correctness. His words, blunt, raw, and impossible to ignore, but the backlash is fierce. Hollywood, the very industry that once embraced him, is now furious. As Chappelle pushes the boundaries of comedy and free speech, the question remains, will his bold stance ignite a firestorm or spark a much-needed conversation?
And she said, because, David, you are not gay. I said, well, Renee, I'm not a nigger either.
Chappelle has a proud way of exposing the craziness of today's culture, particularly in the woke group. In one of his skits, he discusses how he cannot use certain slurs since he is not homosexual. Now, let it sink in. Depending on your identification, you can no longer use the same language in comedy. Chappelle humorously says, "Well, I'm not a N-word either." The audience erupted, but what is he actually getting at?
But you see, what I didn't realize at the time and what Kevin had to learn the hard way is we were breaking an unwritten and unspoken rule of show business. And if I say it, you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. The rule is that no matter what you do in your artistic expression, you are never, ever allowed to upset the alphabet people.
He is exposing the hypocrisy of modern civilization. We've reached a strange point where only certain groups may use specific phrases, and if you don't belong to that group, you're instantly the bad guy. Chappelle highlights the ridiculousness of this double standard. It's as if we're giving certain individuals a free pass while others are muzzled, and people are tired of walking on eggshells.
Those people that took 20% of the alphabet for themselves. I'd say the letters, but I don't want to conjure their anger. It's too late now. I'm talking about them L's and them B's and them G's and the T's.
Then there's his famous alphabet people line. Chappelle does not mince words when he believes there is an unwritten rule in Hollywood: do not offend the woke community. He says that they've taken over 20% of the alphabet and that he can't even mention the letters without conjuring their anger. Isn't he right? Criticizing any aspect of the woke agenda is considered heresy.
People be surprised. I have friends, all kinds of letters. Everybody loves me and I love everybody. I got friends who are L's, I got friends who are B's, and I got friends who are G's. But the T's hate my fucking guts.
Chappelle lays up something that no one likes to admit. The woke community is not a cohesive, united bunch. The L's dislike the G's. The G's make fun of the B's, and everyone has an issue with the T's. But guess what? When you bring it up, you're characterized as a bigot, homophobic, transphobic, or worse.
I'm a great believer that artists should never apologize for their art.
Comedy is a tricky business. It thrives on making people laugh, but in doing so, it often pokes at the things we hold dear, the things we argue about, or the things we'd rather not admit. Rowan Atkinson takes us on a journey through the state of comedy today, its purpose, and its ever-changing role in a world that seems to take offense at the drop of a hat. Next up, we have Rowan Atkinson.
In a recent interview you gave with the Irish Times, you said, comedy's job is to offend, and it seems nowadays people are very careful about what they joke about. Do you worry about where comedy is going?
Not greatly, because it's a cyclical thing. You know, 1 minute, certain jokes or certain attitudes and outlooks are just out of fashion.
Atkinson starts with a simple yet bold statement. Comedy's job is to offend. Wait, what? Isn't comedy supposed to make people laugh? Well, yes, but he argues that laughter often comes from poking fun at things, questioning norms, and sometimes stepping on a few toes. After all, comedy has always been about holding up a mirror to society and making people laugh, even if that reflection isn't always flattering.
And in the end, the whole point of a joke is to entertain people. And if people are not entertained, then you haven't, fulfilled your brief.
But he's quick to clarify, comedy also needs to entertain. If no one's laughing, the joke has failed. Plain and simple. Imagine a comedian delivering punchlines to a stone-faced audience. Awkward, right? Atkinson's point here is that jokes don't exist in a vacuum. They need to land with the audience. If they don't, well, maybe the comedian needs to rethink their material.
And so I'm a great believer that we must have free expression, and in comedy you must be able to make jokes about absolutely anything. I mean, the only question is you would be wise to choose a context in which it's going to be appreciated, because not all jokes suit all contexts.
Next, Atkinson touches on how society changes its mind about what's funny. One day, a joke is hilarious. The next, it's problematic. Comedy, like fashion, goes through trends. He compares it to attitudes and outlooks that go in and out of style. What's okay to joke about today might be off limits tomorrow, but here's the kicker. Comedy always bounces back. Think of it like this. Skinny jeans were once the rage, then fell out of favor, and now they're creeping back. Similarly, certain types of jokes might be out now, but Atkinson is confident they'll circle back into the spotlight eventually. Comedy is cyclical, and audiences eventually find their way back to appreciating humor in all its forms. One of Atkinson's strongest beliefs is that comedians should have the freedom to joke about absolutely anything. Yes, anything. The key, however, is to know where and how to deliver those jokes. He points out that not all jokes are fit for every setting. For instance, that edgy joke you cracked with your friends at dinner, probably not suitable for a family-friendly TV show. This, he explains, is where comedians need to be smart. It's about understanding the context. Comedy isn't a one-size-fits-all game. A joke that kills in a packed comedy club might bomb on primetime television. Knowing your audience and the setting is crucial.
You know, that's a pretty obvious statement, but you'd be surprised how people like to abuse the context of comedy. And people often say, you know, did you hear that joke that comedian said in that Netflix special? You know, did you think that was right or wrong? And all I say is, I wasn't there. I haven't heard the joke. I wasn't in the audience when the comedian said it. I don't know what the atmosphere was in the room.
Atkinson also calls out people who take jokes out of context. You know, the type who hear about a joke secondhand and immediately decide it's offensive without knowing the full story. Atkinson finds this absurd. He argues that if you weren't there when the joke was told, you can't fully judge it. After all, comedy is as much about the atmosphere as it is about the words. The mood in the room, the audience's energy, all these things matter. Lastly, we have Chris Pratt.
Chris tells the magazine out July 5th, "I've never actually been to Hillsong. I don't know anyone from that church."
It's no secret that Chris Pratt's name often pops up in conversations about religion, but the actor is setting the record straight. For years, rumors have linked him to Hillsong Church, a megachurch criticized by some for its alleged anti-LGBTQ+ stance. But here's the thing, Chris says he's never even been to Hillsong. "I don't know anyone from that church," he revealed in his recent Men's Health interview. It's a surprising confession, especially for someone so often labeled as the face of religion in Hollywood. When someone's faith is under the spotlight, the truth can be unexpected. So where does he actually go to church? Well, it's a bit of a mix. Chris shared that he sometimes attends Zoe Church, a popular congregation in Los Angeles. Beyond that, he also joins his wife, Katherine Schwarzenegger, at a Catholic church she grew up attending. This blend of faith communities might seem unusual, but it reflects his flexible and personal approach to spirituality. Faith for Chris isn't about fitting into a box. It's about finding what works for him and his family.
He added that he sometimes attends the Zoe Church, as well as a Catholic church where his wife Katherine Schwarzenegger attended growing up.
What's interesting is how Chris became tied to religion in the first place. He admits that he never intended to be seen as a spokesperson for faith. "I didn't know that I would kind of become the face of religion when really I'm not a religious person," he admitted. This doesn't mean he denies his belief in God. He's been open about his faith, but he emphasizes that he doesn't fit the mold some people expect. One thing that stood out during his interview was a lesson he learned in church. Chris shared a quote that stuck with him. "If the spotlight that's shining on you is brighter than the light that comes from within you, it'll kill you." For him, this was a reminder to stay grounded and focus on internal strength rather than external praise. It's a sentiment that feels especially meaningful in an industry where public perception can be overwhelming.
The super healthy actor is chugging cheese balls, curling dumbbells, and jumping in the pool for his Men's Health cover story. He's also firing back at the haters who have made him a target on Twitter. You know, the worst Hollywood Chris meme demanding one has to go.
Chris Pratt knows what people say about him online, and he's not ignoring it. In fact, he's been pretty open about how those comments have impacted him. One of the biggest internet jabs came in the form of the worst Hollywood Chris meme, where social media users debated which famous Chris should be voted off the island. One has to go, the meme demanded, and for many, Chris Pratt was the target. Pratt has addressed this head on, sharing how it feels to be under constant online scrutiny. While he tries to laugh some things off, he admits that it's hard not to let the negativity seep in. "You don't want to get caught up in it," he explained, "but I do have feelings, and some of the stuff people say, it stings." He's not just brushing this off, he's showing his human side. Turns out even Marvel superheroes aren't bulletproof when it comes to words. Are these savage clapbacks the future of celebrity culture, or is Hollywood getting too comfortable with controversy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of the latest buzz in Hollywood.